Greetings, and in this short video presentation we're going to see how we go about taking a standalone installation of Server 2012 and promoting it to becoming a domain controller in my existing forest. Okay, so right now I have a domain controller DC1. That is my forest root. I would like to create a replica for DC1 to provide redundancy and backup in case my initial domain controller should fail. So this is always a good idea to have a replica for your forest root. So now if I was to look at this from a flowchart, there would be two domain controllers on the same level sitting side by side to each other, because in Server 2012 all domain controllers in the same domain are considered equal. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. As I previously stated, I created a new installation of Server 2012, named it DC2, and I joined it to my existing domain. The reason I joined it to my existing domain as opposed to forcibly joining it to the domain later on when I try to promote it to being a domain controller is that it is because it is much easier to do it this way than it is to try to forcibly have it join the domain later on during the DC promotion. Alright, so we're going to see how this works. So I've already showed you that I have a DC2 up in here, and I'm going to join it to my domain. And to get started, we're just going to go over here to my server manager. Now you see my two servers sitting in here. One is a domain controller and one is about to be a domain controller. So as always, we just go to manage, and we're going to go to add roles and features, and we're going to accept the role-based or feature-based installation, and we click on next. And now we're going to select the server that I want this action to be formed upon, and that is DC2. That's the great thing about using Server Manager from my existing domain controller DC1. As long as I have added the server to the all servers inside of Server Manager, I can control it as if I was physically sitting on that machine and running Server Manager. It's a great feature. So we're going to go ahead and say next. And now I'm going to install the Active Directory domain services, add the features, the box gets checked, we say next. There's no other features at this point to install, so I say next. There's some information about ADDS, I'm going to say next. And if I need to restart, I can do so, but this I know does not require a restart, so I'm going to go ahead and just say install, and once the installation completes, we'll get to the second part of promoting this server to a domain controller. Now the installation for ADDS has completed, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out that first wizard, and we're going to go up here to my yellow triangle, click on that, and we see that we have a job waiting for us, and that is to promote this server to a domain controller. We're going to go ahead and click on that. At this next window, you can see that we're trying to add a domain controller to an existing domain. And that domain is my existing domain, cyberoffense.local. And down here where it says supply credentials to perform this action, I went in here and I clicked on the change button, and I chose to use my domain administrator account, and it succeeded successfully. So these are all the little things that you can do to help speed up this process and have a trouble-free installation of creating a replica. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and type in the restore password for my Active Directory, and now I click next. Now we don't have to worry about specifying the DNS delegation options at this time, so I'm going to go ahead and say next. And now we're going to replicate from a specific domain controller, and that's going to be my DC1. You can leave it at any domain controller, but I like to be more specific in a situation like this. Again, we're trying to mitigate any chance that this operation is not going to succeed successfully. So give it all the information that it wants. Say next. Now we don't mess around with the location for the sysvols, we're going to go ahead and say next. And this is my last chance to back out. This is all the choices that I've currently chosen during this installation, and I'm going to say next to that. And now we're going to watch as this all gets verified. And if I scroll down here, you'll see that I passed all the verification checks and we are ready to install. So I click on install, and when we come back, this machine will have joined the domain as a Replica domain controller. So the installation process has finalized. I'm going to click close, and there's a warning up here, a couple of them, and it just tells me that everything was copacetic and everything completed successfully. So what I like to do is, just to make sure that everything is settled down and everything's okay, I'm going to go ahead and restart this new Replica domain controller and come back up, and then we're going to take a look at it up inside of my Active Directory. So my new domain controller has restarted. It's back up. We've logged on, and I've opened up Active Directory users and computers, and if we go into the domain controllers container, you'll see now that DC2 has been moved over once it was promoted to being a Replica domain controller for my existing domain. So what can we do to ensure that this is going to be a trouble-free and an enjoyable experience? First thing we have to do is, when we bring up the server, join it to the domain. Next thing you have to do is make sure that the static IP information that you apply to the network adapter is absolutely correct. Once you do that, you go up inside the server manager, and then you want to add that to your all servers. Once you add it to your all servers, it's going to see the machine that's already being inside of an existing domain, and you don't have to worry about that step. Then you're going to add in your domain administrator credentials during the promotion process, and if you do all this and you do it right, you won't get those dreaded error messages. Okay, that's all I got for you, and I'll see you in my next video.